bard turned into a giant ape and got eaten by the crazy hell beast. So session's canceled. It's just me and Matt here today, actually. Everybody has abandoned us.
Yeah, Calm, Cool, Chaos Crew, whatever I named us the last time we did this.
Yeah, Chaos Crew. Yeah. So, Matt, my original topic for today, I feel like I would have preferred if the group was here, right? If the four boys could unite at the end of the year and talk about something interesting. But worry not, I have a backup topic. And it's one that you and I have spoken about a few times, and I'm curious to get like your in-depth takes on it. The topic is villains.
Yeah.
Bad guys.
Wanted this for so long.
Yes, the bad guys, the villains, the big bosses. Now, I mean, I feel like I have a few questions here that we can sort of go through, and I'm gonna put the big first question in big fucking quotations is, what makes a good villain? And we're not going to answer that now. I got a few more questions. We're going to run through those and see if we can sort of come up with something at the end. Sound good?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Now, I think the one that we've spoken about before that I wanted to ask you is, do you prefer to run more like straight up, like I'm evil villains, or do you like more nuanced sort of complex villains, running them specifically?
So it's weird from like, a storyteller, from someone who likes to like watch movies and shows and everything. Most people really, they cling to the more complex, nuanced character. There's more depth to them. However, when it comes to like tabletop games, D&D specifically, players tend to latch onto the more like, the straight up necromancer, evil guy, the one pterodactyl from Spider-Man who can cure cancer but just wants to make dinosaurs. Yep. Just as a DM and as players, like I've seen this time and time again. They're like the straight up, I'm just bad and I'm doing bad things and there's nothing you can stop me, do to stop me. Like people latch onto those more in tabletop games. I'm not sure it's just because it's fun for the players to like, talk shit to that person and then fight them and or win or lose. It's more fun just to role play and pretend you're just, an evil, Tarrasque with a lich's brain put into it. And now you're just like, I'm going to wreak so much havoc. You have no idea.
Yeah, I think it's a healthy bit of both, right? I think a part of it is I wish I think it's just I crave violence. I don't want to have to feel bad. It's the opposite of the dinosaur thing. I don't want to feel bad for the villain. I just want to beat him to death. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and like the nuanced villains you can do, but like players don't latch onto them that much unless you constantly have that person in their face, like somehow, or the players are constantly hearing about the villain and like learning about them and shit. Like I don't know, if you want to pull some Elden Ring nonsense and like put some like little tidbits of lore and see how that nuanced character is affecting the world. Like if you want to have like a Melania, like, oh, this fucking crazy rot lady just blew up this whole part of the country, we gotta go stop her. You kind of do something like that. But 9 times out of 10, just a straight up, baddie is more fun to play as a DM and more fun for the players to just beat the shit out of.
So I don't disagree with you, because I do agree. I like the more Skeletor-like villains myself. I think they're just more fun to run because you don't have to think about like, oh, well, does this conflict with their tragic backstory? Do you want to show restraint here, or do you vie for like player sympathy? Fuck. Yeah. It's easier just to be like, yeah, they're just fucking evil. It's it's the Lex Luthor. Aren't you gonna wash your hands? No, because I'm evil. And you're like, Lex, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That being said, I do actually have an interesting little like an interesting story that sort of conflicts with that, about like players not latching on to like the more complex villains. And I know this is the exception rule, right? Like the rules have an exception for a reason.
Oh yeah.
But I just thought it's interesting. It's interesting and worth sharing, I think. This was like probably the end of the first year of the game, and I wanted to incorporate a little bit of stuff from Paladin's background, because his whole thing was he's like, oh, I'm like an alcoholic land pirate also known as a bandit, but to him, he's a land pirate.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, when I made my giant war rig vehicle, I busted into some like old science building from back in the day, and I stole this engine, this like crazy, like super prototype engine that makes my car better than the other cars. And a lot of people would be like, that's a little crazy for your level 1 character, but I was like, this sounds fucking amazing. I love this. You don't know. I'm like, you don't know how this fucking engine works, by the way. He's like, no, Rip can only fix the engine when he's blackout drunk, and he'll never remember how. And I was like, yep, okay, I'm down with this. This is great. I love it.
Yeah. When blackout drunk, I'm level 20 artificer, normal person, level 1 fighter. Let's go.
yeah, exactly. So basically what I had done was there was like this sort of, well, it's not the like subtext of the big arc, right? Of like the bandit war arc. It was pretty much in the player's face, like, oh, these bandits keep popping up, they keep killing shit, this massive vehicle city got sacked, and it's these crazy bandits flying a new banner, and the players are like, oh shit, that's crazy. Anyway, we're gonna go do this thing, So when it eventually bit them in the ass and all this shit went down, they had to get medicine. One of the players, Moon, she destroyed a lot of the medicine by like breaking into the medical facilities and contaminating it all.
Yeah.
So they had to go to like one of the, they're basically like a mob boss for one of the big cities. The city's run by like 4 mob bosses that control industry, but they all hate each other and they're trying to kill each other and all this shit. Anyway.
Therefore,
yeah. So they were like, okay, this one guy who was the villain of the arc, this like the crazy alligator dude that I told you about.
Oh yeah.
He's like, okay, I actually run the industry for medicine in this city, and I can give you the medicine you're missing, but you got to do me a job first. And before they had met this guy, I'm flooding with context. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Before they met him, the guildmaster guy was like, hey, don't fucking trust this guy. This guy's a fucking snake. Do not trust a single word he tells you. It was the Odin, if he tells you snow is white, he's lying situation.
Yeah.
So the players already knew this guy was bad news, and I was like, perfect. They're going to go in with mistrust. They know that he's going to try to stab them in the back at any given time, but they can't kill him because they need him. And I'm going to talk about this later because this is important. But yeah, so he had sent them to a factory, and in that factory there was a scientist dude. The scientist was working on a thing, and he was like, oh, he was doing humor experiments. He was evil as shit. Players went through the thing. They killed the boss. They were looking for that guy, and they found him at the like science facility where they got the engine from. So immediately rips Gennaro. Is that his name? Paladin's, bleep that out. Paladin's character was like, oh shit, I've been here before. And they tried breaking it in. They flubbed it. I think I talked about this in an earlier episode. And the guy who they were like, this guy's definitely a villain. He's going to try to fight us. He's got crazy mutant powers. They tried breaking in and they failed. They got caught. So I was like, okay, we're at a crossroads now. I can either like force this crazy boss fight, and the players will have to fight him. He's got crazy telekinesis. He's got like a Banshee style insta down with like stopping your heart. But the players were like, hey man, let's talk. Like we know we tried breaking in, but let's just talk. Let's just talk this out. Which my players are up to this point for about a year have been the most murder happy, fuck shit break stuff characters I've met. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them have been just like fuck shit break stuff, and you're like, I love this. This is chaos. This is great. But they were like, no, like, let's talk about this out, man. Like, you seem like a reasonable guy. I don't know why you're working with Gariel, but you probably have a reason. And I was so confused. It's like, oh, okay. Like, and he did have a tragic backstory of like his husband was locked in cryostasis and he couldn't get him without killing him. And my idea, right, my initial conceit was that they're gonna fight this guy no matter what. Like, they're gonna fight him. And they can choose to spare him and do this extra side quest stuff that will earn them some like favors and some like physical rewards. But they just skipped the boss fight because they were like, "Oh, dude, you're fucking depressing as shit. Let's help you out, man." Like, and they asked him to move in with them.
Oh yeah.
They moved him to their fucking their little guild, and he lives there with his husband and like all the scientists that they also saved from cryo. And they're like, hey, Moreau, can you help us out? And every time they talk to him, in my head, it's like, this was a villain at one point. This guy was supposed to like potentially kill one of these players, and they were like, no, you are our friend now. This is not an option. Your consent is unnecessary. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting little like tangent to be like, usually I agree with you 100%. There's, the tragic villains, they don't work very well. Players kill them. But for some reason, my players were like, we're adopting him, DM. This is not, they said to me, your consent is unnecessary. And I went, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Oh, no, but that's the thing that players do. Like, I mean, they did it with the Knoll guy. They adopted the Knoll dude.
Oh, yeah, Barker. Yeah, the hyena guy. Yeah. Yeah, that was funny too, because he wasn't even a villain. He was literally a nameless goon who was on patrol. And they put gun to head and they were like, we're adopting you, son. And he went, what?
Yeah. I don't know why players, like, I tried doing it in, when we were doing Magic Goon Academia, when we were in that one Cobalt, like, fire dungeon.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying so hard to I found, like, because it was like a lower, like, dungeon built into the, like, I don't know, like, red rocks and shit. A bunch of kobolds and like what are they called? Fire salamanders, I think.
Yeah,
and,
it's the salamanders.
Yeah, and out of the pile there was just like random like red drakes. And now me being like Matt, and I love dragons and I have a affinity for drakes in general because of the 3-year game I was in. My character immediately was like trying so desperately to just kidnap one of the drakes and just be like, this is my baby and I love him and it is going to be my new pet. And Sam was just not having it.
Yeah, no.
I was like, no, I love him. I just met him 5 minutes ago. But it's a thing. Players do it. And I don't know why, but it's just like, maybe it's like the human, like, I love pets. And it's like, magic pet, yes, please give me, even if it's a bandit. I don't know.
that could be true. I definitely feel that myself, right? Where you see like the tiny helpless thing, like shit. We did it in Josh's game with the fucking gazer, where we were like, just take him. We're just gonna take him. And then fucking Sam did it with the nameless goons, the fucking the 2 jackal wearers and the lizard dude, who now work in our fucking pizzeria.
I love how much that just annoys Josh. Where he's just like, I'm trying to run this very serious Greek style, like Pharaoh's-y kind of game, and then they open a fucking pizza shop, and I'm just like, yeah, why not? It's like,
in my defense, I was not down for the pizza shop initially. I was like, this is dumb as shit. Why are we doing this? And
you guys could have at least made like gyros or something.
We could have. Look, I didn't even want to do the fucking thing. It was Sam who was like, I want to open the pizzeria. And I was like, please don't fucking call it an pizzeria. That infuriates me. And he was like, good, then I'm going to keep calling it the pizzeria. I'm like,
that's where you fucked up.
I hate you so much.
So funny.
Yeah, it was so fucking funny. Oh god.
Yeah, no, it's just a thing. It happens in every game, and in my Strixhaven game it happened. My players adopted 2 what was it? They adopted a baby mimic that was originally in the shape of a book, and now one of the players is trying to train to like make it a companion. The entire group adopted a pair of twin fairy dragons that I think they're like 4 or 5 years old, so they have kids. And now they just found, which would you think, be like, Matt, why are you putting all these things out there for your players to, just adopt and take? And it's like, I just use random tables or what the adventures tell me to do. This isn't my fucking idea. I'm the guy who literally is like, I hate summoners because they fucking summon 32 snakes and ruin my encounters. This isn't on me. And now last game, they found a topaz dragon egg. And now they're like, can we keep it? And then me being a DM, I'm like, sure, what's the worst that can happen? And so now that not only they have 2 fairy dragons, a pet mimic, and now they're gonna have a pet dragon.
You've done this to yourself, you know this, right?
I know, I've done this myself. But I gave the players I gave them the talk, like in the podcast, where I'm like, all right, listen, like if you guys use these in combat, they're fair game. We all agree? And so now they specifically, like, they don't want the fairy dragons involved in combat. They don't want I'm assuming they're not going to want the baby dragon involved in combat until it's a little bigger.
Well, you know what? This is not really on topic, but here's a good question. What is your general rule on saving throws for friendly NPCs? For death saves on friendly NPCs.
I don't know, because I went back and forth on like, because like normally the rules are like NPCs are the same as monsters, so they don't get death saving throws. I think certain important ones for like let's say there's like, oh, there's a character that's romantically involved with another character. Maybe I'll give that that NPC a death saves. I don't know. I guess my mind changes constantly with it, because if they're doing like like an escort quest where they have to bring an important NPC over, that's kind of an important thing of like, hey, if this character dies, mission failed, we'll get him next time. So it's like, do I give them the chance of saving him? Do I give them the death saves? I don't know. Like, I'm never 100% on if it's a good idea or a bad idea.
Yeah, so I'm in the same boat. I basically, what happened with me was I let one NPC have death saves, right? And then that NPC went down. I was like, oh, he's gonna make a death save. And then I was like, I probably shouldn't have done that. And then another NPC that was friendly went down, and then my players were like, oh, don't worry, the NPCs have death saves. And I was like, all right, well, it would be a dick move if I was like,
if I just said, well, actually.
yeah. I was like, that'd be such a dick move to do. But fine, fuck it. In this game, as long as this game's going on, I guess the NPCs have death saves, and I basically just stuck with that the whole time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of. Yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah, let me know if it's a good thing, because I'm not 100% in either camp, because it can be useful, but it's also like certain missions and quests you don't want to like overuse it, because then it's like the fear of death isn't real for the players. Where it's like, all right, come little 2-year-old that we have to fucking like, I'm gonna bring with you on every adventure. It's okay, you have death saves. I'll bring you back up. I've spared the dying.
Yeah, right. that is, for the record, that is something I had to like reckon with literally like 2 weeks ago, because they fought the big boss, like the big boss of the arc, like the crazy. Like, I think I told you it was the stat block for the King of Feathers, but I roided it to shit and back, and like he gave me that super high CR one, and I just fused both of them together.
Nice.
And like more than half of the players and NPCs, like almost everybody went down.
Oh shit.
And I don't know what the fuck happened. And I'm sure some of my players think that I was just being nice. I wasn't being fucking nice. All of the NPCs rolled above a 15 for all of their death saves. No one failed a single fucking death save that wasn't a player character. People are like, oh, well, aren't you? Yeah, it's like, people aren't like, oh, but aren't you happy that like like your players are don't have to worry? I'm like, yeah, look, I don't want to kill my players. That's never been my intent. But I want to give them something incredibly challenging, and if they die, they die. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be happy with it, especially if I have to throw a bunch of the story that I've written for that character out. But if it happens, it happens, and it'll be interesting for character reasons. But those NPCs just fucking refuse to die. They literally, all of them were like, I ain't hear no bell.
Yeah.
Put me in, coach. And I was like, you just took 100 points of fucking damage. What are you talking about? Like, it just got me so mad. And I'm like, no, the players are gonna think I'm going easy on them. Like, no, I was not going easy on you. Your fucking friends should have died in that fight.
You had extra cannon fodder that fight.
Yeah, your friends should have died. Yeah, it has fucked me at least once now. Sorry, it doesn't fuck me. It's not like I'm mad about it, but it would have been interesting to see like one of the characters, like, one of my players, or the characters are her 3 siblings. And then for Paladin, it's like his first mate on his pirate ship. It's also his like giant, he has like a bird. I think I talked about this before. His name is Viz. It's the crazy. Oh yeah. The lizard bird that's the size of a harpy eagle. Yeah. That thing got downed, and then one of my other players, Siffy, her fucking, she has it's a 6-legged horse with claws, fangs, no lips, and that got down too. Oh my God. And unlike Paladin literally has a rule where it's like, if his pet dies, another pet will show up within a week. Siffy doesn't have that. So if her not a horse dies, it's fucked.
It's yeah.
But nope, it fucking nailed all of its death saves, and I just sat there like, are you fucking me?
Now, did you roll the death saves? Did you have the player who's controlling it? Or were the players even controlling them? I don't.
No, so the players, Paladin controls Viz for the most part. I like it's sort of, it goes back and forth because sometimes I'll roll for Viz, sometimes he'll roll for Viz. I'll move him, he'll move him. It just sort of depends on like, do I have Viz's character sheet open at the time? If I do, then I'll do it. If not, he'll do it. Yeah, they rolled really well, and I sat there. I was really happy, but I was mauling at the same time. Just sat there salty as fuck, but really happy at the same time.
Oh, I'm glad, because the King of Feathers is a cool mod. For people who don't know, if you just type in, Google images, D&D King of Feathers, it's basically a big T-Rex with feathers. Fucking massive. I don't know if it has a horn.
Yeah. It looks like, if anyone who plays Monster Hunter, it looks like a roided up Anjanath with more like, it's just more colorful. The Anjanath is like a brown pink. The King of Feathers is good. It's just a rainbow of fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It's so great. I've ever since I found out about it, which is like roughly when I think it's from Tomb of Annihilation. Yeah. Okay. Ever since I found out about it, I was like, I want to use this someday. I'm gonna fucking
same. I wanted to use it so many different occasions on my players, and I never got the chance.
It's so good, dude. The first time it teleported, my players shit themselves.
That's I've watched a Let's Play of people doing it, and then the DM's like, yeah, and then the T-Rex, the dinosaur teleports, and you're just like, wait, the dinosaur. What? And it's like, yeah, how far? 30 feet? Ah, he's right behind you. And it's just like, hold up, you just said the dinosaur teleported? And he's like, yep. And that's oh, that's a crit. Oh, how much health do you have? Oh, you're dead. And it's just like, no, go back. I don't care that my character's dead. Go back to the fucking dinosaur.
Yeah, it's the whoa. Okay, we're not gonna move by like you didn't just say what you just said. You know what I mean? Like, that's literally what happened with me, where I was like, yeah, so it moves over here, and they were like, oh, we'll get attack of opportunity. I'm like, you would if it didn't teleport. And they went, it what? And I was like, oh yeah, and now it has multi-attack too. And they went, what?
Oh, I love the it has the breath weapon that's just bees.
Just bees? Yeah.
Just bees. It's like, this T-Rex full of bees should have.
I literally, I kept that ability. The only thing that I changed was that it doesn't spit them out. It calls them, because I basically made it like a Quetzalcoatl analog. I called it Shukoatl, and it was like it wasn't like a deity, but it was like a powerful entity that the shark people know about. Okay. It's like the guardian of their underworld. I took a lot of it from Mayan mythology, and I threw some names around.
Yeah.
So it called rather than a swarm of bees, it called a swarm of poisonous snakes that fly.
Shit.
So they would just fucking fly around the players and just rip them to shreds.
Oh my god.
It was great. It didn't end up doing that much, unfortunately, but every time the snakes came out, the players were like, "Are you?" I would talk about Shukoatl, but unfortunately, it's a giant angry T-Rex. Not really a villain as much as it is a problem. You know what I mean? Like evil alligator mob boss man. He's a problem and a villain. No, King of Feathers is just something you now have to deal with.
Force. Yeah, you just have to.
It's the bag of dog shit that gets dropped at your front door, and you're like, why? What is happening right now? Please, God, someone help me. I really don't want to do this right now. Yeah, it was very good. What was the original? Oh, yeah, the original question was complex or simple villains. So I think we both have basically said simple villains are just the better ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there a villain that you particularly enjoyed running? Like one that really had you like, yes, this is the guy.
Yeah, it's weird because this is kind of a long story, and I kind of mentioned this character a while ago. I don't actually remember if I mentioned him during our monster episode, or am I briefly kind of mentioned over him. But so when my players, they're like, this is like literally like the first few months of the 3-year game, and I did the Matt Colville thing where I'm like, ooh, Caves of Chaos, let me look up that adventure, and I threw that, and my players went into the caves. They were looking for the special MacGuffin, and it led to them a bunch of different dungeons, and one of the areas they kind of like passed through was this kind of fortress built into the side of a cave, and it ended up being a drow outpost. And that outpost led into the bigger city. If anyone knows actual like D&D lore and history, I had that connect to Menzo Baranzan, which is the big important drow city. And actually, if you play Out of the Abyss, you can go there. And so I didn't have all that content prepped or anything, because I was like, they're not going to go there, but I just want to like hint at like maybe later on, and when they're higher level, they'll go there. And so they end up talking to the drow and being like, hey, listen, we're lost. We're trying to figure out where to go. The drow kind of point them to like, get the fuck off our property. But what I ended up doing was having a drow sneak and follow them as the players are continuing down this underdark tunnel on their adventure, trying to find where the magic item is. Well, one of my players, this is Chris, the Shadow Monk guy. His characters, or him, I'm not really sure, is super paranoid. So he just I like
that little thing that his player, it's, his character's paranoid, or he is, I don't know.
Yeah, he's kind of all his characters kind of have this little bit of a trait. And so he's like, Matt, I want to make sure nothing's following us. I want to like roll perception or anything, see. And so I'm like, yeah, sure. And he rolled fucking dumb high. I don't remember if it was a 20. But I was like, yeah, you see, there's two drow. One of them in particular, this is actually right around the time that Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes came out. And that book has a lot of cool new drows. One of them specifically is called a drow Shadowblade. And it's basically this like drow assassin that summons a shadow blade and like kills people in the dark, and it summons 5-foot cubes of darkness. And basically what you're supposed to do is you stab someone with the shadow sword, summons a 5-foot cube that basically just blinds the target. Now they have no idea what's going on, and they can turn off the darkness cube whenever they want and deal more damage to the player.
Wasn't this the thing that Matthew Mercer based that crazy red-haired drow assassin lady in Campaign 2 after?
I don't know, because she has her own stat block in the new Tal'Dorei Reborn.
Oh, she does?
She's fucking decked out. I'm 100% spoiler for my players. I'm using that stat block.
Oh no!
At some point.
I'm using this stat block, and I'm using it.
It's fucking. It's so cool. But yeah, no. I don't know if maybe that was a stat block originally, and then he built off of that. But that's what I used for this one drow, and then the second drow was just like I think it was like the weakest lowest drow you can imagine. Like whatever in the monster manual, just because I'm like, I want the super powerful person, and then their second.
The drow commoner?
Yeah, no, not a commoner. The warrior or something.
Drow bandit, CR-18.
Something. Yeah, I don't remember. So he sees these two drow, and he's like, this is when they're like level 6 or 7 too. So he's just like, oh, these fucking drow. This is also the player who specifically, after this moment, hates all drow and was like, I'm gonna go to the city and I want to kill all the drow, and that's what started that whole shenanigans. And so he's like, all right, he's like, I'm gonna shadow step behind the motherfucker, and I'm just gonna go to town. I'm just gonna murder him. The drow Shadowblade is CR-11. It's high. It's pretty high.
Yeah, it'll fuck you if you're not careful.
So and the only thing I found, I'll try and find you the image I use, because I randomly found one from Google. Basically, what if the Shredder was a very lighter skinned drow? Basically, that's the image you can imagine
For the Shadowblade.
For the Shadow Blade. That's the image I found because I was like the first image I like Googled and I was like, oh, this looks sick.
See.
And so the player teleports.
They're real pale.
Yeah, real pale. Yeah. Which is funny because afterwards he became known as the Pale Drow for my players. And they're like, oh god, the fucking Pale Drow. And that's what started him becoming this like villain for them. And specifically for the Shadow Monk guy.
Oh my, you know what that reminds me of? I don't know why. Have you seen Inglourious Bastards?
Oh yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, the what was it, the Jew Bear?
Yeah, the Bear Jew. Yeah, the Bear you.
That's basically what this guy was.
With the fucking nails.
But the best part, so the Shadow Monk teleports behind the Pale Drow guy, and basically he's like, "All right, I'm gonna need you to stop doing whatever you're doing." To which the Pale Drow took exception to that, and one shot him.
Oh no.
Which Chris, he had no, he was like, what the fuck just happened? And so the rest of the party are freaking out, trying to figure out like, oh my god, what's going on? Because it's, it's dark and they're in a cave and only half of them have dark vision. And they're like, oh no, our new doggo friend just teleported away from us. And now I hear combat in the distance. But basically they ended up killing the weaker drow. And the Shadow Blade just, because actually the Shadow Blade also has a, what was it? Shadow Step feature. So I'm just like, yeah, he just, he teleports out. And so they're like, fuck, all right, whatever. If we ever see that guy again, we're gonna kick his ass. And when they got to the end of the Underdark adventure was they fight a beholder, they kill the beholder, and they basically teleport back to the surface. It was, as they're teleporting out, the Pale Drow and a bunch of other Drow warriors just, they kick in the door and they're like pointing, they're like, where are you going? And so Chris was so upset because he's like, no, fuck, why are we teleporting out now? Give me 5 minutes, I want to fuck this guy up. And so they teleport out. And so for the longest time in the campaign, they're always like, all right, Matt, we want to go to the Underdark, we want to kill this guy, he's being a dick, we want to fucking fight him. And there was one time that when the players were off on an adventure, him and a bunch of other drow actually snuck into their stronghold. Because I was using the Matt Colville Stronghold and Follower book. And actually tried killing a bunch of their NPCs, and they ended up stealing something from them, from the players.
Oh wait,
and
wait, let me get this straight. You had the guy kill their friends?
No, he didn't kill their friends. He basically, while him and a small squad of drow and spiders basically attack the stronghold, and while the other drow minions were basically attacking the stronghold and fighting the players, basically hirelings, they had a bunch of NPC hirelings that they got. He stole something from their home base. It's been a long time. I don't remember exactly what he stole. It's one of the. I steal a lot of shit from people. One of the things that part of my campaign was I actually took the teeth of the dragon, the idea that Matt Colville got from his friend, but I made them into 5 different magic items, each one based on the chromatic dragon's colors. There was a green one, a blue one, white, black, red. And so I think he stole one from them and then just went back to the Underdark, which my players were like, what the fuck? And so when they finally I think they ended up doing a bunch of other stuff and then got to level 16 when they're like, all right, Matt, we need to go to Menzoberranzan. We need to kill the drow. Which they ended up, instead of calling it Menzoberranzan, they're like, we're going to go to Webtown, to patented trademark Webtown. We're going to go down there. We're going to fight the Pale Drow. We're going to kick his ass. We're going to take our stuff back. We're going to put an end to this nonsense. And it was one of those things where they only literally met this NPC, this monster, twice or once basically, they encountered him once, they met him twice, but then he became this prevalent figure, and then they ended up getting some hirelings to actually go into the Underdark and get information, and apparently what ended up happening with him was he became a very important member of the dragon cult that I ended up dragging. The dragon cult was a big part of my home game, And I found, so in Forgotten Realms lore, and this is a lot of info dump. I'm sorry, but this is like
so I actually do know a bit about this because I was gonna run Court of the Dragon Queen.
Oh, nice. Well, so in Forgotten Realms lore, and they don't really mention this a lot in 5e. They did mention it in D&D Next in like the Vault of the Dragon adventure, and in the big, like, I have the 4e Menzo Branson book, which is fucking awesome if you like love Drow. There is a sect of Drow called I'm gonna butcher the name, Jerez Chulson, and they are
I don't know about this.
they are a subsect of Drow who are half dragon Drow, but they're half shadow dragon.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and they're all like assassins, and because they have dragon blood in them, they're all sorcerers, but because they're shadow dragons, it's all necrotic shit. It's like these guys are fucked. And basically the players, because the main antagonists throughout my campaign were dragon cultists and dragon cult, this guy, this shadow assassin, after me dealing with the players, basically decided to go and work, after stealing this important item, was basically told to keep it from the players and given a bunch of like power from the dragon cult, and then made his own subsect with these half shadow dragon drow assassins, sorcerers. And basically that was like one of the big things that the players were fighting and dealing with these fucking half dragons constantly. And then going around having Menzo Branson adventures, dealing with drows, going to bazaars, seeing all sorts of weird fucking aberrant shit in the Underdark. And eventually they finally got the big boss fight with him, which was after going through a big dungeon, getting to him at the end, getting teleported into the Shadowfell to fight him. And then basically it was him, two shadow dragon, blue shadow dragons, and a bunch of those half dragon, shadow dragon drow assassins. And it was a big fucking fight. And he is the one, like, I normally don't really like to build monsters from scratch. He's the only thing I've ever built from scratch, from the ground up, after taking the shadow drow stat block, and then rather than reworking it, I was like, I'm just gonna make a new thing entirely afterwards. Gave him a bunch of shadow dragon powers, gave him a bunch of dragon shit, gave him spells, and legendary. I think he ended up being like a CR 16 creature by the time I was done.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I can, after about 3.5 years, I think I can name on one, I can count on one hand how many times I made a stat block from straight up scratch. So fucking kudos, because Sam does that shit too, and I'm like, that just sounds awful. I don't want to fucking do that. I never liked doing it because, like, I don't like to be like the, there's a difference between a lazy dungeon master and then the lazy dungeon master. Mm-hmm. The lazy dungeon master is the guy who goes out and he's just like, listen, why am I going to build a monster when there's so much fucking resources out there? I could just take something and then warp it into my own thing and fit it into my campaign. Why do I have to go and it's not like, oh, you're taking something somebody else made. And it's like, yeah, but if they're posting it on the internet for anybody to use, and I'm not selling it, I'm not Critical Role, I'm not live like recording myself and my friends playing this game, I'm using it for a home game, it's fair game. Yeah.
So building like stat blocks, I most of the time, like 99.9% of the time, I'm like, no, there's no reason for me to do it.
Yeah, no, I don't think I will.
Yeah, basically. But he was the only one because of how much like the characters loathed this guy and they wanted to punch him in the face, and kill him. And they eventually did, and they got the super MacGuffin item. And yeah, it was very cool to build like this weird shadow dragon, half dragon sorcerer assassin guy, fucking Shadow Blade. It was very fun. He was a very cool villain. Basically just played up the fact that, like, one of the things with Drow is like everyone jokes were like, oh, elves are all perfect beings and they hate everybody. It's like, no, they don't hate. Elves in like fantasy, they don't hate other races. yeah, there's a little bit of the ego, but it's not like they're like, I'm better than you and you know it. It's just like, we came here first, we were here first, I probably did all these things. I'm just, I'm good at everything. And you'll eventually get there. Drow are like, nah, other things are terrible. We're the cooler, the more sexier, the more powerful. Like Drow specifically, they're like, nah, we're the best. Fuck you guys. Ding dong, your opinion's wrong. We're Drow.
If you like old-fashioned, just straight-up evil Drow, I would recommend looking into the Dark Eldar from 40K, because it gets... They pull some shit where you're like, wow, the Drow in D&D just seem like fucking saints. They're not
that bad shit.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's real bad. The Dark Eldar, they do a lot of bad things to people for the lulz, but also for survival, which is part of the lulz.
Yeah.
Long story short, the Dark Eldar in 40K are constantly having their souls destroyed, like drained away. So by causing suffering, they can substitute that for the like suffering they're going through by having their souls destroyed, so it rejuvenates them. And it's gotten to a point where like they don't even need to eat. They don't need to eat or sleep or drink. They just gotta torture the shit out of people and they'll live forever.
Jesus fuck.
Because weird hell magic.
That's brutal as shit. It's awesome.
Yeah. They turn people into furniture and shit. And they'll still alive.
Nice.
They'll turn you into a couch.
And sit on you and
they will like literally reorganize your DNA and bone structure to turn you into a fucking couch, and then you'll just be alive for 20 years or until they get bored of you.
Oh my god, I'm just gonna quote the death clock thing. It's like, that's the most metal thing I've ever heard in my entire life. That's so fucking sick.
Yeah, they're a little wild. Now it's funny. So you brought up that Drow, who this is something I was kind of curious about. As someone who's run as long as you have, how do you keep like recurring villains interesting and not something that the players get really fucking annoyed with?
So yeah, that's a tough one, because I always have the mindset of like, if you're gonna put the bad guy in front of the player, and unless they have some sort of like teleport, and I don't mean like Misty Step or I turn invisible and run out the door. No, I mean like if they don't have the 7th level spell teleport, if they're in front of the player, just expect them to die. Unless it's like, a level 20, like the bartender's a level 20 fighter. I never put a bad guy out in front of the players unless like they're meant to fight the bad guy and, win or lose. And as a DM, I'm never trying to win. The bad guys want to win. So I'm going to play them up the best I can. But me as like, I don't want to win. That's not fun.
I agree.
Go for it.
Go. You're good.
Yeah, no. So, but reoccurring villains, it's hard. It's really hard to do. The best way, it's like you have them show up, or you have like people talk about them, or you can kind of do the handsome Jack thing of like have the bad guy be in constant communication with the players. And it's against, like, the players have no control over it. The bad guy will just shoot a message into their brain being like, oh man, these pretzels suck. I bought this butt stallion. Like, you can just do that if you want, or you can just have like the bad guy is constantly doing things or having minions around doing things around the players. So they're constantly being talked about. They're constantly involved in the player's life. But if you're like, actually, the Eberron Rising from the Last War book has a small section on how you can actually do this, because recurring villains is a very big important thing with Eberron, with pulp adventures. And some of the ways they say it's like, oh, it wasn't, you didn't add, and some of them are like kind of cliche, but they work very well for a D&D game or any tabletop game, because 9 times out of 10, it's hard to have a reoccurring villain that's not like either the level 20 like bad guy, who's not, your players aren't supposed to fight yet and you don't want to TPK them. I think like one of them they even mentioned, they're like, what if the bad guy like die, if the players kill him, but they, an explosion goes off and they can't find the body, and then that NPC just shows up. Or you didn't actually kill the NPC, you killed the bad guy, you killed a simulacrum or a clone of them or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like kind of like the players will be like, God, fucking damn it, but you'll keep the reoccurring villain, and it's kind of annoying. It is kind of an annoying thing in tabletop games to kind of do.
I 100% agree. I had I was in this one game. I think I talked about this before with the with Samir, my like Middle Eastern character with the blade whip.
Yeah.
He had like the gambling addiction. Yeah. So, halfway through this campaign, we were like made aware of this crazy Death Knight dude. We didn't know what he did. To this day, I still don't even know what this guy's fucking deal was. Straight up, I just don't know. But
there's like, he's a Death Knight. That's probably a problem for someone else. Not
for me. I don't even know he was a fucking Death Knight. Like we know so little about this guy. He rocked up during like a crazy rescue mission, and what happened is that we were trying to save the king's son who got kidnapped in the middle of the night. It was a whole thing. We got to the capital city. We're friends with the king. We go to bed at the barracks. We wake up. The kidnapping has already happened, and these Zeppelins, straight up Zeppelins. Fucking Q Helsinger bridged Zeppelins are flying away, and we're like, what
How did we not hear this?
How do we? I literally was like, did we not hear anything? And the GM was like, nope, you don't hear anything. And I was miffed. I was miffed, to say the least. But I was like, all right, fine, fuck it. Maybe these guys have some crazy magic on them. Who knows? Just because I don't know what it is.
Silent on the Zeppelin.
Exactly. I was like, it's dumb, but I guess it could be a thing, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we go to rescue the king's son. As we're leaving, this Death Knight dude just fucking is literally Superman flying after us. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy? Whatever, fuck it. So we like knock him out of the sky. We get away, whatever. He shows up like 8 sessions later with the soul of a blue dragon who we had met and like sort of befriended, because in that game, like you beat metallic or chromatic didn't matter. A dragon was a dragon. That's all you were.
Yeah.
So there were good ones, there were bad ones, and he'd killed him and like taken his soul and like stuck it in his armor. And we're like, oh great, this fucking guy. So we kicked his ass again. It was a pretty hard fight. We kicked his ass. We were gonna kill him, and then he teleported out. We were like, oh my god.
Oh.
Okay, here we go. And then we fought him again a few sessions later, and then he teleported out again, and we were like, oh my god, just stop. I personally, I don't know about you, I would prefer if you just let us kill the boss and he gets Delilah Briarwooded, right? He just gets brought back to life again and again.
Well, that's probably what the DM. The only thing I can think of is that the DM did was during the fight, you guys either got him like really low on health, or you basically you got it, the boss fight, you got his health bar down, and so he did the like cutscene like, I guess we'll fight another day, and then just teleported out. That's what I'm assuming happened.
Yeah, that's almost definitely what his thought process was. Yeah. But like, I agree with you. The ninja vanish after 100 hit points is like, can we not do this? Right.
It was the fact that it happened like twice.
Yeah.
If he did it once to you guys, like, then it's like, oh shit, he can teleport. We have to make sure next time to like hunker him down or something. Like, did that happen like more than that? Like afterward, the third time or second time?
Well, so unfortunately, the campaign ended quite turbulently, to say the least. After that, there's a lot of things, but like, I thought it was so fucking annoying. Like, I just, yeah. But that is to say, I really hate the Doombot method.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor Doom. It was a Doombot.
It was a Doombot. Yeah.
I hate that shit. That's part of why I hate Doctor Doom.
Yeah. I mean, the only issue, it works though. That's why it's like, it's super hard to keep reoccurring villains in D&D. So like the Doombot. Oh, it was a robot. Oh, it was a clone. The building you guys are fighting exploded and the body is miraculously gone. Like, it's tough. It's a tough thing.
It is, yeah. I'm not even gonna pretend that it's not. It just, I think what it is that if you employ the same method over and over again.
Yeah.
Like if he teleports away the first time, you're like, oh fuck, he got away. And then you kill him the second time, and then he comes back the third time, but he's like, half of his face is like skeletal or zombified, and he's like clearly a little corrupted looking. You're like, oh shit, someone just won't let this fucking guy die. You know, it's the variety that makes it annoying, or that makes it not annoying. Because like I you can have the most charismatic villain ever, but I think the players are literally like, I just don't want to fight you again, especially if they have like an annoying stat block, you know?
Right.
It just becomes like a whole thing. Yeah. The way that I got around it specifically was I just didn't let them fight him, that dude Gariel, because like you know, I set him out from the onset to be a villain, someone who's gonna keep being a thorn in their side, constantly threaten them, make their lives a living fucking hell.
Yeah.
But I stated very early on, right, like you can kill bandits carte blanche, right, because they're bandits, and more often than not they're firing at you. Fuck them, they're bandits. But if it's another member, if it's a member of another guild, you can't attack them unless you get fired on first. If you do, it's sort of the mutually assured destruction, right? I mean, like anybody can just like your whole guild can get wiped off the map for something you fucked up on. And my players did actually kill a bunch of people out of sequence, right? They just killed them, and they were like, "What do we do?" And the guild, they called the guild master, and he was like, "Look, I'm not telling you to do anything, but did anyone see you?" And they were like, "No, we killed everyone." He was like, "Okay, good. Get rid of them." You know? So yeah, the whole time they were talking to Gariel, they were like, "We want to kill him so bad, but like we can't do anything unless he makes a move, because we're going to be breaking guild policy, and then we're fucked. Like we've killed all of our friends." And obviously, I wasn't going to make my players stick with that forever. So his whole thing was he was planning a coup in the like manufacturing city. Right. Like I said, they're all trying to get each other jobs, and he was trying to like muscle in and take everyone's property. So they made a deal with another mob boss to be like, "Look, I will hire you guys as my strike team for when he pulls this coup, and because you're working for me and I'm telling you to do it, and he's already tried killing us, you can kill him carte blanche, and I can take his shit." Right. And I will be fair in big quotations about how I divvy things up and sell it from now on, because now I own the majority. Right. And I think they ate it up, because every time they saw him, they're like, once you make your fucking move, buddy, it is go time. It is on like fucking Donkey Kong, my man. Yeah. When they eventually did get to fight him and they killed him, it was a huge weight off my shoulders, because eventually, like, the guy, he's done. They were like, yes, he's fucking dead. And then I went, so he's not really the main villain. He's more of like the deuteragonist. You know what I mean? He is a main villain, but he's not the main villain. You got to kill someone else who's stronger. And they went,
fuck. Yeah.
No. And I was like, yeah, don't worry though, because this guy's actually the main villain. They were like, but most of us almost just died. And I was like, yeah, you got 24 hours to fight this guy. Good luck. And they went, what do you mean? Oh no, sorry, it was the other round. They killed the other guy, and then they had to go fight him 24 hours, like within 24 hours, where he was going to take over the city. So, you know, one character literally died and had his max HP reduced to 1. Yeah, it was great. It was so funny. He was like, I literally, if something touches, if I take more than 3 points of damage, I die outright. Don't let me get hurt. And
holy shit,
dude, it was. They basically cheated by just roiding him up with temp HP.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, I have 17 HP now.
Fuck.
They took a short rest, and he's like, nope, I'm not short resting, because if I short rest, I lose my temp HP.
Oh my God.
Oh, it was so good. But yeah, they just keeping him around as like this literally like this antagonist, this guy who's just constantly giving them shit. And to their face, and they just can't do anything about it. And it like, I can tell it boils their fucking piss. And once they do get to do it, it's so good.
Yeah, the day they're gonna kill that guy, it's gonna be fucking awesome.
Yep. And they got him. if I remember correctly, turned his head into pate, and then Paladin skinned him and turned him into boots.
Oh shit!
He was a gator man, and all of the animal people in the party were like, "I'm not okay with this. This is fucked up." And he was like, "Yeah, but he's a bad guy though." And they're like, "We don't care. We don't care. That's a person." And he's like, "Yeah, he's a gator person." And they're like, "Yeah, but I'm a bird person. Are you gonna turn me into a fucking hat?" And he's like, "No, because I like you." It's just like, oh,
just don't cross me.
Yeah. Just don't talk shit. Don't get hit. It's fine. We're good. We Gucci. It was so good. Now, it's great, right? We're doing this in sequence. It's coming out so well. I know Josh had a problem with this before, and you were sort of saying, right, like when you put the pieces on the board, it's time to fight. How do you deal with the elusive bad guy speech, which is to say, like, how do you stop the players from fishing for that fucking surprise round when it's time to go?
So most of what I know has actually just been like, if you honestly, if anybody does like YouTube deep dive of like D&D villain videos, fucking so many people have done videos on this shit. And each one of them, I think, have said something similar to this, where it's like, either do it before combat or write out, like, bullet point the villain's speech and say it during combat. So, like, let's say the players are going, like, you know, the fight's going to be in the main, like, ballroom of the castle. So as the players are entering the castle and going down, the voice of the villain, and he gives his speech echoing throughout the halls as, you know, voices. Or if they're going into, you know, a dungeon or a cave or something, have the villain just telepathy in their mind give their speech before they get to the boss room. Like, that's probably the easiest method. And or if you're, you know, if you can do it as a DM, is probably more fun. If you write out the speech and basically as they're going in combat and fighting this guy, he just says little bits of it. But yeah, never, because yeah, you're gonna have the player, you know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna give my grandiose speech before we fight, and then he's like, all right, I'm gonna, you know, use my bonus action to use the ready action, and then I'm gonna sneak attack, surprise him. I know I'm an assassin rogue, so now it's a crit, and then I fucking, yeah, no. It never works out unless you're like I don't even want to say a dick, but like, unless you like do the thing where you're like, hey guys, this is a cut scene, you know, which it can go over sometimes in a game if you have players that are cool with it, but like, I don't know, I don't think the big bad guy speech is a good thing to do right before, like, as they enter boss room, fucking Dark Souls, they go through the you know, the fog wall. It's like, do it before fog wall or inside fog wall while fighting.
Yeah, I've come up with I think a pretty ingenious method for how to pull it off. I call it the gun to your head method. Oh, right, because when you have like it's literally what it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
The bad guy's gonna do his bad guy speech, and the players, you know, they're not going to stop him because he's got a gun to one of their friends' heads. You know, it's like the classic, like, hostage method. I've done it. Okay. I've done it once. Yeah, I've done it once and sort of, not really twice, because when they fought Cardell, his character's like uncle, he was guesting for a little while. They fought the uncle and they fought Gariel.
Right, you're talking,
they basically were like, oh, we're going to kill him. And then he literally held out his hand and was like, stop. And that, you know, that throws people off, you know, because when the bad guy's like, pause. Yeah. And he basically had like a little talk with Cardell's character, Dirge. And then the fight started. Yeah, the other one, though, when they fought Gariel, he literally, like, he had a gun to a character's head. She was like in a bird cage because she had like a crazy singing voice and, you know, songbird, whatever. Yeah. And he sat on an ammo crate, like a big crate, with just like a revolver to her head, and he's like, okay, so we know what's gonna happen if you try to pull that trigger. I'm not bulletproof, but I'm pretty bullet resistant. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, you know, they didn't really have a choice but to have that conversation, and it wasn't like a monologue. And I think a slight side tangent. The best bad guy speeches are not actually a speech.
No.
You know?
No, yeah,
because I as a player and a GM, I respect the speech that you came up with that you thought was probably super fucking cool. And to be honest, if I wasn't a player, I'd probably be like, oh, that's pretty fucking raw. That's awesome. But as a player, I'm like, I just want to kill him. I just want to roll some clickety clacks. So often I don't really care if it's just a one-sided speech. If it's more of like it's a lot of leading questions, like, what do you do if X, Y, Z? And the player's answer, and he's like, wrong. It's the Conan, what's best in life, to crush the enemies, that.
Yeah.
I like those where the bad guy obviously is on a high horse. He's obviously got some preaching to do, but like you can't preach without an audience. So you need some feedback.
Yeah, and it gives the players like time to either they can like smack talk the bad guy, which that's something they've been wanting to do to their face for a long time. So it's like, yeah, this is a good opportunity without the players being like, so I'm gonna call him a fucking clown, and then I'm gonna stab him.
Oh, bro, that shit. I understand the desire to like joke and call the fucking the big bad like a poopy head, but I get so not annoyed. I just it feels like such a wet blanket for me when players they like won't, especially if the boss does the whole like it's part of the conversation. They're like, well, you're stupid. It's like.
Yeah, well, I again, I'm going to steal this quote from Matt Colville. That's when you have the villain just kind of be like, I wonder if anyone's going to remember your words after your burning pile of corpses. He's just like, oh, we're going there now, huh?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty good. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had that happen, and like I sort of subverted it, right? Because my player, the BBG was like,
yeah.
Let me ask you a question. What do you actually get out of insulting my intelligence? What does that actually get you?
Makes you feel better.
Yeah, because he was like, we're on opposite sides of the board. We're obviously enemies. But why are you doing this? Because obviously, I don't care. You can call me names all day. It doesn't change. I'm still going to kill at least one of you. Mm-hmm. So is this for your satisfaction? And people are just like,
that's like the Avatar. It's like the big prisoner. It's like, hey man, that hurt my feelings. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute.
Like, wait, here's
don't you want to fight me? I was like, oh yeah, we'll get there. But what's up, man?
I did at one point. I played in a one shot, and my character was edgy as shit. He had like a giant curved greatsword. And he had like this. It was like a special magic great sword that was the fucking Virgil Judgment cut end level shit. Because I made it a homebrew and I just wanted to try, and I asked the GM and he was like, yeah, sure, try your homebrew at my one shot. But personality wise, he was just Obi-Wan Kenobi, like to the point that I was like, hello there and shit like that. And the fucking guy was giving his bad guy speech, and he's like, unfortunately, you're quite shit at this, aren't you? Like, he just started like giving him shit, and the bad guy was like, "Are you doing this? Are you doing this right now, in front of everyone?"
In the middle of my speech.
Yeah, in the middle of my speech. Are you doing this to me in front of my salad? Yeah. And in my defense, I did actually engage with him, but it was just little jabs.
Yeah.
Because he was like, "Oh, I'm going to destroy the world," yada yada, and my character was like, "Okay, but what are you getting out of that? Like, you'd have to be really stupid," which you are. That's not important. About why you'd be doing, it was just a little fucking pokes at his ego throughout the talkback. It was great. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing because I did that, and when I said hello there, it was to the final boss. And the Dungeon Master literally did the General Kenobi. And the other players were like, please stop. Do not do this. Don't do this right now. We're not doing this whole fucking song and dance. Oh, it was so good. Oh my god.
Right.
So here, another question for you, now that we've done the bad guy speech.
Hey.
How do you construct a good villain boss fight? right? Like the villain has had their bad guy speech, chips are on the board. How do you make a good villain boss fight?
Well, one thing is having the villain talk during combat. That's like the big thing. Having him either like making fun of the players or jabbing at them or being like, oh, after I'm done with you, I'm gonna go find your aunt, Aunt May living out in Long Island, and I'm gonna burn down her house or whatever the fuck. Like, you have the villain trash talking, against the players. Depending on how, the level of monster, if you're like, this is the, D&D terms, making sure, I'm trying to be as, tabletop agnostic as I can, making sure the villain has enough actions and stuff that they can do that they don't get dogpiled on for their, against the players. Because like if you're doing a bad guy and maybe a bunch of minions against like 4 players, most of the time the players are going to try to ignore the minions and go after the bad guy. So the bad guy should probably have a lot of mobility, and or if you're fighting like a bit, like let's say it's like, I don't know, a boulder with arms and legs, then give it a fuck ton of health if you don't want it to have mobility. Some cool special maneuvers. I know for D&D, like a lot of people like the MCDM, the action oriented monsters. I'm kind of mixed on them, to be honest. Cause like legendary actions are so good, and one of the things they do is they give the monster, the bad guy, actions to do in between the player's turns. The action-oriented monsters, they give one action a monster can do during one round of combat. And granted, they're a little more powerful, but each action, it's just one. So you're only giving the villain one extra thing to do each round. And it's like, do you want that villain is that villain going to survive 3 rounds? Most of the time, no. Like, I mean, also, granted, as a DM, do you want combat to last more than 3 rounds? Like, because fucking, you don't want it to become a slog. Even a boss fight, you don't want a boss fight to like become a slog. But yeah, I should probably high mobility, things they can do during the player's turn, maybe, minions or a pet, that can, spice things up.
Yeah, those are all, I agree with that. Those are all definitely like things that I do. Like the talking during the fight, that's big. Because it just, especially if you want a boss to be memorable, you just don't want people to remember them as a bag of hit points, because that's always the fucking worst.
Yeah.
Right.
And it makes them real too. That's the other thing. It makes it like, oh, this isn't a Drow Shadowblade. This is Osquilantry. This is that dickhead I fucking hate, the Pale Drow. I want to punch this nerd in the face. It makes them a real person.
Yeah. No.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I'm just laughing because I'm just thinking of the Pale Drow now. Like, it's like, as someone who wasn't part of that game, that just,
yeah.
I don't know if I would find that infuriating or fucking hilarious after a while.
Well, originally they thought it was funny because they're like, haha, you're like an albino drow or some shit. And he's just like, actually, I'm the most deadliest assassin in all of the Underdark. And they're like, oh no. It's like, it's just like, fuck.
May have talked shit a little too soon. Yeah. For me, I think the thing that always makes me sell really good like villain boss fights is, and this sounds so simple, right? But like regional effects, that thing that just gets super fucking looked over all the time. It to me at least, I feel like it makes the world a difference. To have like a tangible thing that happens when the villain's near, like the one where like the giant bat monster in Murcielago, like the fact that all lights just sort of died as they got closer to it, it immediately, like, it sets a scene, right? It gives them like a feeling of like, oh, we're really stepping into the fucking lions then. This is not going to be good. Yeah,
definitely terrain, the environment, like, having environmental effects too. Like maybe the area, like the boss room here has a lot of like traps or, you know, dangerous things coming at the players while they're fighting the boss, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, it's brain. I keep being like, yeah, and then I keep losing my train of thought. I'm like, what the fuck? I know what I want to say. Just fucking say it, please. Yeah, the environment is huge. Like, we talked about this, and I think I believe it was our first encounter building episode. But you need something going on in the map, like different terrain elevations, put stage hazards like bottomless pits or running water or moats of lava, fucking crumbling bridge. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Put something in there that it might not act against the enemy, but make it work at least in tandem with it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the big Coliseum is fun. Don't get me wrong. I love big Coliseum boss fights. But after a while, you just sort of forget that it's there. And when you forget that it's there, you're less likely to remember like what happened. And when you don't remember what happened, then you don't really remember the boss as well as you probably could. And then that thing that you spent weeks building the character of and planning out his super crazy backstory just goes out the fucking window, really, right? Like, yeah, environmental hazards, regional effects. Obviously, you know, for me, when I do legendaries, right, because I agree with you. I like the action-oriented monsters, but I also really like legendary actions. I don't
such a simple mechanic. It's so good.
I don't know if Matt Colville made any like monsters that have both.
Not that I've seen. So besides the Kingdoms of Warfare book that I got, that he started implementing that in there. I subscribe to the Kickstarter for the Flea Mortal, and every so often I'll get a playtest packet that comes out with, hey, Flea Mortals, it's a new monster manual type book, but it's using the MCDM stuff. And so some of the monsters in there so far that and what originally action-oriented monsters were supposed to be for were like, you know, oh, I want a goblin boss for my players because they're level 1 and I want them to have a cool epic boss fight, but I don't want to like give the boss fucking legendary actions. I don't want to give a goblin legendary actions. Oh, this is an alternative. But now they've been giving like boss monsters these action-oriented abilities, and they're cool, and like I said, sometimes they end up being way more powerful than regular legendary actions. But again, then the problem is you can only use one around. So I kind of jump back and like the action-oriented monster for like low CR creatures and like, you know, low CR 5, 6, 3, like anything below 10. I think it's super helpful. Anything above that, like, you know, an end campaign boss, I'm kind of mixed feelings on it. He just came out with the new one for the playtest packet 4. I should say the whole team. And they basically have their version of Strahd. And he's like CR 15 or 16 or some shit. And each of his action-oriented abilities are fucking nuts. But again, it's still just one around. And it's like, is this vampire gonna survive more than 3 rounds of combat?
Yeah, I just... You know what another thing is too, is like as a DM, I get a little bored if my boss can't do a lot of shit.
Yeah. You
know, because like you're like, you know, if you have minions in the field, that sort of helps alleviate the boredom, because you do have to keep like track of other things.
Yeah.
But especially if it's like, if it is just the one enemy on the board, you're like, okay, he's gonna do his thing. All right, cool, turns over. Now I have to spend the rest of the next hour asking you guys what you want to do, and then I just have to react to that. Whereas like
yeah,
when you have legendary action, you can literally go, okay, like you can sort of go tit for tat with the players.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There is something I've been wanting to try this out somewhere. I'm not really sure where. It's actually something that comes from Dungeon World. I know Josh isn't here. Can't take a shot.
Oh my god, we mentioned Dungeon World and Josh isn't here. What the fuck?
I know, it's crazy. But but basically, and I think this is in any Powered by the Apocalypse game, is when you're fighting an enemy, they don't have a turn.
Right, yeah, he mentioned
but they will
this,
always,
yeah.
like, whenever you do something, they will react to it. So they basically have as many turns as the players to retaliate or act in their own way.
Yeah, because they don't have, like, there's no initiative really in Power or in Dungeon World. It's, all right, guys, all right, you go first, then the monster goes, then you go, then I go, then, back and forth like that. I don't think it's, like, initiative. I think it's just, like, whoever's around the table will go clockwise or some shit.
I believe you choose. You sort of make it like okay, I think I need to do a thing now, and then you do a thing, and then you do a thing. I kind of want to try that. Just to see if it works. Mm-hmm. And I had a thought of maybe that's what they were trying to do with the new Vecna character sheet. He's got 3 reactions.
I think so. I think, but then what was it? He doesn't have. Is it legendary actions or is it? It's been so long since I actually looked at the Vecna stat block.
Yeah, he's got no legendary actions, but he has 3 or 5 reactions or something like that.
And I know in the adventure itself, he has lair actions. Like, because with the little Vecna stat block, they actually gave him like lair actions in there because you're supposed to fight him. I'm still mixed on that like stat block and everything. Because like there's some aspects that I like, and then there are others that I'm like, this doesn't. It just feels like a rogue, like a really weird necro rogue. I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah, I mean the Phantom Rogue, but yeah, I agree. It doesn't feel like crazy wizard. It just seems like bad time.
Yeah,
because like fighting that Vecna, it's not going to be easy, and it shouldn't be. But it doesn't seem particularly fun. It just seems like, okay, cool, he's going to stab me and regain all these hit points and then have all these like freebie spells that he can cast at will. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what it is? What it feels like? Pardon this crazy shift in topic. But in the Dark Souls games, right? Like, the things that make a good Dark Souls boss fight is that they are quick, bloody, and visceral. Mm-hmm. Right? They like a good boss fight in Dark Souls shouldn't last more than 5 minutes. If it lasts more than 5 minutes, no, it's taking too fucking long. And it's not even like it's like, oh well, it's 6 minutes. Like no, it's been 5 minutes. What the fuck am I still doing here? Right? Yeah. Assume that you're leveled for the area and all that. Mm. There's a boss at the end of Dark Souls 3, at the end of the final DLC called Midir. It's this crazy giant black dragon. It's like a corrupted shadow dragon thing.
Okay.
That boss takes like 15 minutes. Because it has such high defense, so much health, and it's so hard to like do meaningful damage to it because it can just one-shot you, and it's quick too. It's not a slow boss. So you're sitting there, and you're for 15 minutes, and you just get like, for me at least, I just got fucking bored after a while. You know, like I would just get bored, and then when I get bored, I get sloppy because I'm not really thinking anymore. I'm just sort of like autopiloting, and then you do that 4 or 5 hours. You're like, this sucks. This just isn't fun. You know, it's kind of like that, where it's like, you know, Vecna, he's going to be difficult as fuck. He's going to do a lot of damage. He's going to be almost fucking impossible to put down. He's going to teleport everywhere. And when he teleports, he's going to do damage. So you're fucking over the martial users.
Yeah.
You're just like, dude, can we just, after about 2 rounds, I feel like I'd just be like, DM, can we not do this anymore? I just don't want to, don't want to do this.
It's tough because high-level monsters, like high-level boss monsters, legendary monsters like that, they all kind of have that. Like, when in the 3-year game, I threw my players up against from Tome of Foes too, one of the old arch devils, Garion. If you look up any art of this dude, it's the guy who's like human upper body with big red bat wings, lower body is a snake. When he has a scorpion tail at the end of it, and he carries a horn. Yeah,
this fucking goober. I love this guy. Yeah, he looks so dumb.
He's been a villain since first edition. So this guy's like a legacy creature. This guy, and I threw him at my level, like I think they're 18 or 19, and he fucked them up pretty good. It was just him, and I think I did the. In the Dungeon Master's Guide, the actual minion rules are, large combat, and I gave him like a fuck ton of minotaurs. Like, I think he had like 20 something minotaurs against my players. And yeah, his thing, he had legendary actions to teleport. and and it was 60 fucking feet. So he can go across the map to like another player who's, you know, taking pot shots at them and leaving the barbarian and the paladin to, you know, fucking twiddle their thumbs being like, oh no, now I have to run to the opposite side of the map. And then he can fly. So he's just mobility up the ass and then does so much damage up the ass. And that ends up being what a lot of these, you know, high level CR monsters in 5e, you know, tend to do. They can fly. They have a lot of teleportations, so that way players can't, you know, pin them down. And they do like one really big damage thing, and then just rinse and repeat.
Yeah. You're
and
not
sometimes
wrong, and that's sort of
yeah.
Yeah.
No, go for it.
You're not wrong, and I think that's kind of what the pain in the dick is for me.
Yeah.
Is that does seem to be a lot of it. It's a lot of like. It's a lot of regenerating, or
that too, yeah,
or just being like, I could. It's like it's a lot of them is like, I have the power to take you in a one-on-one fight, but I'm not going to. And I've said in a previous episode, I like forcing movement in fights. It makes it more interesting to me, right? Yeah. But I like the more of like the Sauron hits you and knocks you back 15 feet,
right?
Because ultimately, it doesn't do anything other than potentially knocking the tanks away from the squishies, and then you can beat the squishies.
Yeah.
So that's fun, but just being like, I just teleport over the map, or like I'm flying the whole time, and it's like, oh well, only 3 people can fly, and it's a concentration spell. That's just not fun.
No. Yeah.
It is really fucking difficult to do it right.
I really hope that they implement this in, you know, 1D&D's nuts eventually, because I've been using them for certain monsters. And I think I've mentioned this too on the show. On DM's Guild, there's an author, let me find her name. Or their name.
Is this the lady that does all the bloodied conditions?
Yeah, they do all the bloodied, Anne Gregerson. Yeah, she does a bunch of monster loot, so it's like really cool for like if you have players that want to like, you know, salvage monster bits. It's really good for that. But then she also started making these bloodied and bruised PDFs for every fucking 5e book, and it gives them like back and forth edition. Every monster had a thing called bloodied. When they got to half their hit points, they get a new cool maneuver or more powerful maneuver, whatever they can do now. Because they're like, oh my god, they're half HP, they're at death's door, the second phase of the boss fight is going on. And so I've only used it once against my players, and I downed a player during the Strixhaven game. They were fighting a Knoll guy who worked for the Orc, who are the, you know, totally not Death Eaters. And it was a Knoll that specialized in blood magic. And one of the things they do is basically when they get to half HP, they can instantly move without, like, as soon as they hit the trigger, it's called a trigger ability, which is fucking funny as shit. So when they first get the bloodied, they can move up to their speed at any creature and then make one attack with advantage. And I think I ended up accidentally critting my buddy Wolf after he did, because I think he literally used his big, like, I'm gonna use my ultimate, Matt, and I'm gonna try and like one shot the guy, and basically got him like to 25% health with that one move. And the bad guy retaliated by zooming over to him and then just fucking one-shotting him. And he's like, damn it.
I'm trying to think. What do you do in that situation other than like,
as a player or as a DM?
As a GM, like do you just look at them and go banished? You know what I mean? Like, you just make them perish, right? You just like wail on them.
Like wail on the player or the bad guy?
The player.
Oh,
because you're right. Like if he 3/4 your dude's health, yeah, you got to do something. You got to teach him a lesson. You can't let him get away with that shit.
Well, no, I mean, it's good because that was, he's like, this is my like emergency button move that I only do when I'm like, oh shit, we're in a serious like threat.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to like punish. It's like you don't want to punish the player for like doing that stuff. But it was also, if he didn't bring the bad guy to half his HP, the bad guy might have started switching to Wolf to being the target, because he's like, all right, I'm dealing with this one player who's up in my face. However, this other guy is taking pot shots at me and they're doing a fuck ton of damage. I'm going to go deal with him real quick because he's probably squishy if he's that far from me. So it probably would have just been like, a smart creature would probably have tried to, actually like think about it and move. And that's the other thing too, like making creatures like not stupid. Like if they're fighting like something that doesn't have a lot of intelligence, like a construct or like a giant, like a wild, like I don't know, wolf or badger or some shit. Like it's gonna it's not gonna be super smart. It's not gonna be intelligent. But if you're fighting like bugbears, like goblinoids, like smart monsters like a gnoll, like they'll think. They'll actually be able to use reasoning in combat and being like, yeah, you know what? It's like this guy in front of me is annoying, but the guy with the bow is even more annoying. If I take him out real quick, I can come back and deal with this other guy.
Yeah, I asked, right, because you say that, it reminded me, because I did the same thing to LP the other day.
Oh no.
Yeah, because when they were fighting the King of Feathers, right, they have like I think I brought this up before, they have like the crazy, it's a collar that enhances mutation abilities.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I remember
because
this.
He basically, his character has, it's kind of like cancer, right? Like his mutations are running rampant and it's degrading his body. But it's making him stronger the sicker he gets, right? Because his mutation's just getting more powerful. So it's a really cool, like, double-edged sword of, well, all your attacks do stupid damage now, but every time you do them, you, like, risk hurting yourself. And I don't mean, like, you lose hit points. I mean, like, your lifespan gets a little shortened. So he put the collar on, and he did this, like, crazy powerful blast attack that smashed the King of Feathers. It did, like, 60, 70 HP. And he only had, I think he had 400 flat. So like that's not
that's a good chunk.
Yeah. It's about a fourth of his HP. So it's like, well, I got to do something. Like he claps, he talks shit, he's got to get hit. He's fucked around, he's got to find out, right? And then I forgot that because his con mod has been lowering every week because of his sickness. At level 12, he's only got 30 something hit points.
Fuck, dude. Oh my
god. So the
god.
King of Feathers did like 37 points, and I was like, yep. So Ren goes down and then immediately gets swallowed, and now he's dying. And they went, what? I was like, oh, this is so bad. What have I done? And I fucked up. I fucked up real hard. I told my players this is not a spoiler. So his sickness has advanced to the point where he only has 2 death save successes or failures.
Oh my fucking god! He has to succeed
3 times. He can only fail twice. And he had failed twice while he was eaten, and I had forgotten about that rule until because I have each of my players, I have little GM notes on their character sheets.
Okay.
To help remind me of stuff. But I hadn't. I realized after the fight I hadn't opened his thing at all. So I just sort of absentmindedly opened it, and it literally says can only fail 2 death saves, and I went, he should be dead.
Right.
But I'm not. I can't just kill him. You know what I mean? Like that would be so fucked up.
You can say this, you can always just like have it be like, oh, maybe it was a moment of adrenaline. Your body somehow was able to preserve you from dying after that massive hit. I don't know, some like nonsense. And you don't want to punish the player too much.
Yeah,
especially and that's also like a mistake on it's like a mistake on the GM, so it's like, all right, well, we'll just say we'll ignore it this time because that was my bad.
Yeah. I think about this and I don't know how else to say it. I feel like I almost lost. I may have lost something in not having that character die. I feel like I cheated the narrative in some way. But then I have to think like, well, I'm not doing this for the narrative, right? I'm doing it because I want my players to have a good time. Yeah. So I have to like constantly be like, well, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to think that way because that's dangerous. Because then it's the like.
Yeah, because
the
that
GM versus player and.
Yeah, and that was
story.
Yeah, exactly. And like at the end of the day, we all are playing a game to have fun at the table. We are not playing your novella. We're not George R. R. Martin playing Game of Thrones in the DM's world. It's like we're playing a game. And at the end of the day, if like that would definitely be something that would probably ruin the player's fun of like, hey man, so I made a mistake and your character actually should be dead. So here's your new character sheet, and it's like, wait, hold up. It's like, no.
Here's Scrimbo Bimbo, the fucking halfling rogue.
Yep. Yeah, here's your halfling rogue. Yep. Fucking.
Yeah, no. I think about it to this day. I'm like, damn, I killed him. And then I'm like, nah. But maybe. Nah. But maybe. Okay, all right. I got one more question for you, bud. It's just the two of us. We're probably going to cut it a little early today. I got one more question. Yeah. What is your favorite villain that you've fought against as a player?
Oh, probably. Okay, so this is I think we've had some. I think a couple of highlights are the 1v1 Merilith fight from Avernus. That was pretty fun. Wasn't really a villain. I don't know if that really counts actually, because the whole Yunogu thing was an unwinnable situation, so it was more just for the memes.
Yeah.
But I think as a player in and spoilers for fucking Storm King's Thunder, the main bad guy of the adventure is Imrith, who is this ancient blue dragon wizard. And one of the things like she does is she actually found and has studied a bunch of old magic from the Netherese Empire. And Netherils and Netheries, they're like the ancient mages of thousands upon thousands of years ago. They had the floating cities and all that shit. And now people of Faerun, they're adventuring in all the ruins of the crashed cities that are underneath the ground now. And she has like all these magic runes carved into her. The boss fight at the end of Storm King's Thunder against her is so epic. It's so big because you have to you find her where her lair is in a desert. It's in this big grand coliseum, and she has a bunch of her thing is she does a lot of gargoyle like magic. Like she creates a lot of stone constructs and gargoyles. And so you get to this coliseum, and there's just a bunch of these giant trebuchets with a bunch of gargoyles that are shooting at you. She's flying around this fucking coliseum as you're fighting her. And then when you get her, I guess, I don't know if it's actually said in the adventure, but basically midway through the fight, she goes and there's a giant sinkhole under the ground. And she goes into it, and that's her actual lair. Because blue dragons, they make their lairs in underground desert like tunnel systems. And so we're like, fuck. We're like, we have to go. We're going into her territory. So the first half of the fight was just big dragon in the air combat. We're all trying to survive, going into underground, trying to survive a bunch of traps, making our way through this dark cave, and then just her lightning blasting us and shooting magic off into the shadows until we have to like take her down. And we ended up, one of the things that kept happening in the campaign is our cleric, he would always get knocked unconscious because the DM would throw like a mage at us who would cast magic missile because it's just a good, it's a good spell. Mm. And he would always take down the player by accident, being like, oh, I'm just going to cast magic missile because it's simple. And so the cleric hates magic missile because he's like, I always get knocked out to magic missile. I almost died to magic missile. It's my least favorite spell in the game. I fucking hate it. So Imarinth, the big blue dragon lady, she is on her last leg. She is fucking really weak and down. And she knows our party. She knows like what we're capable of. And so she's like, all right, well, if I get rid of their fucking healer, I'll have no more issues. And she casts magic missile at a high level and just murders him. Straight up kills the player.
Oh.
Yeah. And so we're all like, no, fuck. And it was the first character death in a long time. And so our turtle barbarian managed to get the final hit on her. This is for the cleric. Like that moment, striking her down. We killed this ancient legendary boss of Faerun, and we just so happened to I forgot the warlock and the DM kind of homebrewed a thing of like being able to bring people back to life, but then something happens to them, like corrupting magic happens to them.
Okay.
So the warlock ended up bringing the cleric back, but now the cleric's kind of fucked because he's been corrupted by the warlock's patron, and now he's like, oh no. But that was probably like the best fight, just because like dragons are probably some of the best monsters to fight in D&D, just because of like they're not they're not just a big sack of hit points. They have a lot of cool lore to them. They hit hard. The breath weapons are pretty fun to like use in game as a DM and also as a player to like try and dodge and avoid. They can their ACs are pretty high, pretty much, so they are pretty tanky. It gives you that like I'm fighting Smog feeling of like I have to find the weak spot. And they the fucking mobility. It's like they fly like a motherfucker. It's crazy. So with that, and then the multiple phases of like fighting Imrith in the air, and then on top of that, she had spells. And one of the things that Imrith specifically has is that she has this. Instead of her normal breath weapon, she has a magic draining breath that does like a fuck ton of force damage and steals a spell slot from spellcasters and gives it to her to use.
That's such a fucking oof.
Yeah, and so like if DMs out there need a big cool final boss, like if you have Storm, you can find Storm King's Thunder, or you can probably go on D&D and Beyond and buy Imrith for like fucking $3, whatever fucking they do on D&D Beyond. Fucking 10 out of 10 boss monster. Super cool.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah. What about you? What's your... Because I've only really played with you in like 3 campaigns, and we've only had a couple of boss fights between those.
True.
So I'm not sure if anything in that has been like a super highlight for you, or if this is something from like your the Summoner game you were in, or the oh my god, now I'm blanking on the Japanese what's the sword game, the one that Martha's in.
Oh, Fire Emblem?
Fire Emblem, thank you. Holy shit. My brain farted on the word, and I'm like, what is the game? It says Martha.
Shit. You know what's funny? I had asked this question, but I hadn't even given it any fucking thought.
What's the first thing that like comes to mind? Like out of all the games, like the first boss fight that comes to mind when you're like, when I say like, oh, boss fight as a player.
So it's probably, okay. So for reference, the Fire Emblem game, it was literally like, it was basically a weird, you know what the theogony is that thing when everyone tried to like, when people tried to be like, all the religions of the world coexist, and they tried writing like a comprehensive book as to how that was possible.
Okay.
That's kind of what the Fire Emblem game was. It was all of the Fire Emblem games are sort of mishmashed in, and characters that are either like related to different people, or they're sort of recontextualized quite a bit. And the boss, it was pretty much like the halfway boss of the game.
Okay.
And what made that really cool was he was sort of like this. He was like this giant demon named Fomortis. He looked fucking sick. I have a picture I can send you.
Yeah.
And he was like this 50-foot tall demon that we had to fight. And it was at this point, like we're halfway through the game. We're level 10. Or sorry, no, we finished at level 10. So I was level 6 or 7 at the time. And it was the first time where, I'm still early in my D&D career as a player. So shit is still wowing me. I'm still like, I don't know enough to be like, that doesn't make sense, or I don't like that ruling. Everything is like, oh my god, what the fuck? This is crazy.
Yeah.
And it was so crazy. Like, he would hit so hard, and like our NPC was a cleric, so she was doing everything she could to keep us up. And Snubby, one of the players in my game, the one who plays the shark person, was playing a bard, so she was trying to heal. And like me, the barbarian, our I can't remember what it was a homebrew class, but it's basically like a magic knight in Fire Emblem. I can't remember exactly what they're called.
Okay.
And you have like a wyvern. You like ride on a wyvern.
Oh, it's sick.
We had 2 of those. It literally felt like we were trying to take down a giant monster. And what I loved was I had a cursed sword that could shoot beams out of it. Like it shot like wave attacks. But every time I would do it, it would drain my strength by 1 point until I killed something.
Oh, Jesus.
And I would get all my strength back.
Yeah.
And my character had 20 strength at this point. So it really was this like, well, I can't get up there because I'm on the floor level, but my beam attack does a lot of damage. And I loved, I'm not describing this well at all. I'm kind of caught in the nostalgia, I suppose. But just every time I would launch a beam up at him and it would hit him in the face, and I was trying to get him down on one knee, and then we did. And he picked up our archer. He was a rogue, and then he became a fighter, I believe.
Okay.
He almost got spiked like a football from 50 feet up, and LP was like, hey Brett, if you get hit by this, if you get spiked, you're dead. You're 50 feet up, bud. He's gonna spike you like a football, and you're hitting the ground like a crashing meteor. You're fucked. Thankfully, didn't get spiked.
That's good. Yeah, someone's probably made rules for like Shadow of the Colossus style fights for D&D. Someone's got to have made it by now. Like,
yeah, I'm sure.
Like, because that's probably like even during Storm King's Thunder, that's something I've been like, yeah, I want to see that happen. Like, it's not in there.
Oh, here we go. I found a good picture. Here he is, Giga Chad Famortis.
Oh shit! This is like, what if Obelisk the Tormentor was like more evil looking?
Yeah, no, he's roided up. He's fucking. He's a big boy. He's a big beefy boy. Also, it's funny. The NPC actually got the winning kill in that fight, but it was God. And then here's the thing, right? It was so cool. Because there was in Fire Emblem, the Fire Emblem is a thing. It's literally like an item, and it's like the Elder Scroll. It does just whatever the plot really needs it to be.
Okay.
And our NPC had it. It was a medallion that her mom gave us. Spoilers: her mom was the evil god the whole time. She was actually an Aasimar, and she just never knew it. And we didn't know it either until the next campaign, which was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that shit where we're like, oh my god, it makes sense now. Holy fuck! It was great storytelling on Ant's part. Straight up, it was amazing. So she like channeled the Fire Emblem to boost her magic, and she threw a fucking spiritual weapon and just beheaded his ass. And we were like, literally, I've never been so happy to be kill stealed. I was so happy, and then he blew up.
Nice.
He did the thing that every asshole GM does, which I did with the King of Feathers. He just goes thermo fucking nuclear on you, and he blows the fuck up, does a stupid amount of damage. But the cool thing that happened was in the first arc, my character's dad was murdered by a Death Knight who was controlled by not this guy, but somebody working with this guy.
Right.
And I got his sword, but the sword basically traps the current owner inside of it to act as a mentor for the next owner of the sword. And sword is like the symbol of the king of the country, and my character was a prince. Mm-hmm. So his dad became his mentor as the sword spirit. And when I first got the sword after his dad died, it was bound in like, it almost looked like wire bandages. Like it was sort of like wrapped up.
Yeah.
In this like wire, and I couldn't use it as a sword. Like I literally couldn't even hold it.
Oh shit.
And then eventually I could use it as a weapon, but it counted as just a normal greatsword. I couldn't do anything. Or actually no, I think it was an improvised weapon because it wasn't even sharp.
Oh.
But it would literally like, originally I had to like keep it wrapped up in bandages and just like fastened to my back with leather straps because I literally couldn't pick it up. I know I'm going into this. It's cool. Don't worry.
I'm listening.
Yeah. Eventually, I became like worthy enough to wield it, and then I could use it as improvised weapon. I used it for a while, even though it was just not ideal or optimal.
Yeah.
But when Famortis blew up, the character's like father manifested and like blocked the attack and like the weapon unlocked fully, and then I had it for the final at the end, like run of the dude. It was so cool. I don't know how else to say it. It was the most like anime bullshit, and I'm not even gonna front you. It's such anime bullshit. But spoilies. I actually like the anime bullshit a lot. People are like, no, that's not D&D. I'm like, okay, no, fuck you. D&D is anime. Shut up.
It is.
If
you know, one of the
Warlock.
weird things. Oh, which one?
Undead Warlock. You are literally a Soul Reaper from Bleach. Like,
yeah,
you are.
Like,
it is.
You know what's weird too? Like, speaking of like the the monsters blowing up and shit. Lately, Wizards of the Coast, they're making more lower level monsters that just they blow up when they die. And I feel bad because like in running Strixhaven, a lot of the monsters they give me do that. And I think my players are getting annoyed of like every monster they fight or every other monster they fight, it blows up when they die. And it's like, oops. But
so
it's like
did you
a
make
thing.
them explode into snakes?
No, I haven't done that yet. Haven't found a good excuse to use UNT yet for Strixhaven, or I haven't found a good spot to throw them into Strixhaven, but I'll figure out something because that would be funny.
Yeah, like not only would it be funny, you make Sam real proud if he's like,
yeah.
And then they explode into snakes, and your players go, ha, and then you put the snakes on the field, and they go,
put the snakes token.
Oh no!
Just like wait.
So fucking funny, dude. To this day, we still make those jokes because it is
it's so good.
One of the crowning achievements in D&D is being like, yeah, then they explode into snakes. You're just like, what the fuck? What is happening right now?
I don't know. Oh, D&D is a fun game.
Go on, what was that?
No, it's a fun game. Fucking crazy shit happens.
Very good. Okay, we're almost an hour and 50 minutes. We almost pulled a full episode, you and me. Let's go us. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, this is a full episode, but this is part one villains because I definitely want to do another one of these with the other two. Like hear their takes on bad guys and villains and how to implement them. Yeah.
I'm definitely not hosting the next one though.
No, don't worry. We'll figure it out.
Perfect. All right.
It'll be in between the Smash or Pass monster manual or
yeah, we got to do it. Don't worry. It's still on the table. We're still doing it.
Yeah.
We got it, boys and grills. We got it.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, that's been us. Follow us on the Tweetars or the YouTubes or basically anywhere where podcasts are held. Feel free to leave a rating if you think we're doing good. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. That's been us. That's us done. We're done.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Oh yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, whatever the fuck you celebrate or don't. I don't know. Go get drunk. That's what I'm gonna do.
Party hard.
Party hard. Yeah. Last 2 days, it's been.
All right, New Year's resolution. I'm going to get a healthy liver. Right, next holiday.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right, that's fair.